In the middle of a cold night on August 12, 1955, Bumpy Johnson's phone rang, waking him from a deep sleep. A panicked voice on the other end said they had big trouble. Bumpy asked what happened. The caller explained that a crew from the docks had just raided 3 of their stash spots. They stole over 100 pounds of product and murdered 2 guards. Bumpy sat up, trying not to wake his wife, Pearl, who was moving beside him. He asked who did it. The caller said it was the Red Lotus, a brutal group from the downtown shipyards. Bumpy recognized the name. They were a long-standing organization known for being quiet but deadly, though they had never dared to cross into his territory before. He asked where the attackers were, and the caller said they had already retreated back to their own neighborhood with the loot. Bumpy got out of bed and said he would arrive in 15 minutes. When he reached the first spot on 145th Street, the area was crawling with sirens and blue lights. 2 bodies were being hauled away. His crew looked terrified and frustrated. A soldier named Slim gave him the rundown. He said 6 guys stormed in using long blades and silenced pistols. They took out the guards, Ricky and Sam, and made off with everything. Slim handed Bumpy a small red slip of paper with a black snake and foreign symbols on it. Bumpy asked for a translation. A woman named Queenie stepped out of the shadows. She had dealt with these groups decades ago and understood the language. She told him the note claimed the neighborhood now belonged to the Red Lotus and warned Bumpy to get out or be killed. Bumpy balled up the paper and asked who was running things. Queenie told him the boss was a man named Johnny Wu, a 30-year-old veteran who had clawed his way to the top of the downtown scene 3 years prior. He had already crushed his rivals near the water and was now looking to take over the whole city. Bumpy stared at the blood on the floor and told his men to find Wu and set up a sit-down. Slim asked if he was planning to make a deal. Bumpy replied that he didn't want a deal, he wanted to see the man's face before he ended him. The next morning at 11, the invitation was sent downtown. Johnny Wu sent a reply back almost instantly on the same red paper. There would be no sit-down. The message told Bumpy to flee the area or end up in a body bag like his guards. Slim read the note and realized a massive conflict was coming. He warned Bumpy that these guys didn't follow the usual rules of the street. They used blades, chemicals, and had no fear of losing their lives. Bumpy told him he wasn't afraid either. Another soldier named Big Mike asked when they were going to start shooting. Bumpy told them to wait because he needed to learn his enemy's secrets first, why they were moving now and who was helping them. He then reached out to a woman named Dr. Lin, his private doctor who had lived in that downtown community her whole life. When the phone rang for the 3rd time, the doctor finally picked up. Bumpy told her he needed her assistance immediately. She asked if he was hurt, but he told her he was fine, he just needed intel. He asked her what she knew about the Red Lotus and their leader, Johnny Wu. The line went dead silent for a long moment. Finally, Dr. Lin whispered that she couldn't get involved. When Bumpy pushed for a reason, she confessed that Johnny Wu was her own flesh and blood, her younger brother. On the afternoon of October 14, 1955, Bumpy drove straight into the heart of the downtown docks. It was a suicide mission for most, but he went without backup to show he wasn't afraid. Dr. Lin met him at the entrance of her small medical office, looking worried. She told him he shouldn't be there, but Bumpy insisted they talk. Once they were behind closed doors, she opened up. She explained that Johnny used to be a good kid, but the war had broken him. He had returned home full of rage and joined the Red Lotus to find a place to belong. He climbed the ladder fast and took over the whole operation. Bumpy asked why he was coming for the northern streets. Dr. Lin explained it was about pride. He wanted to prove to the neighborhood elders and their family that he could build an empire larger than anyone else's. Bumpy looked her in the eye and reminded her of the time she saved him from a gut shot when every legal hospital turned him away. He told her he was calling in that favor. He didn't want to start a massacre that would leave her brother dead, but he was prepared to do it. He proposed to sit down, just him, Johnny, and the doctor on neutral ground with no guns involved. Dr. Lin was skeptical that her brother would ever listen. Bumpy told her to make him listen. He instructed her to tell Johnny that if he didn't show up, Bumpy would level the entire dockside district. The doctor saw the look in Bumpy's eyes and knew he wasn't making empty threats. She agreed to set it up, but she warned him that if any harm came to Johnny, their friendship was over and she would become his greatest foe. The meeting was scheduled for the night of October 16th at the clinic. Bumpy showed up with his right-hand man, Slim. Johnny Wu arrived with a terrifying enforcer known as the Butcher. They took their seats at a small table with Dr. Lin sitting right in the middle to keep the peace. Johnny was the first to speak, his voice cold and steady. "So, you're Bumpy Johnson," the younger man said. "I am. I've heard stories. The king of Harlem." Johnny Wu smirked. "But your reign is over. That hill belongs to the Red Lotus now." Bumpy didn't flinch. "You murdered 2 of my people. They were standing in the wrong place," Johnny shrugged. "You hijacked my shipment. It's my shipment now. And you sent me a death threat." Johnny leaned in. "It wasn't a threat, it's a reality. The Red Lotus is growing, and Harlem is the next stop. You're just a hurdle in the road." Bumpy relaxed into his chair. "Johnny, let me educate you. I've held those streets for 2 decades. I've gone to war with the Italians, the Irish, the cops, and the feds. Every single one of them tried to take my crown. Every single one of them is either underground or out of the game. What makes you think you're special?" "Because I'm not afraid to die," Johnny replied instantly. "Neither am I," Bumpy said. "So I guess we'll just end up in the dirt together." Dr. Lin slammed her hand on the table. "Enough. Both of you. This is exactly what I was dreading. 2 arrogant men too stuck in their ways to see reason. Johnny, Bumpy saved my life once. And Bumpy, this is my brother. I won't watch you 2 slaughter each other." "Then what do you want?" Johnny asked. "An alliance," she said. The room went silent. Both men looked at her like she was crazy. "I don't do partners," Johnny snapped. "Neither do I," Bumpy added. "Then you're both idiots." Dr. Lin stood up and paced to the window, looking out at the foggy streets. "Do you even see what's happening out there? The mafia is strangling this neighborhood. They're seizing businesses and forcing our people into corners. We're being erased. Johnny isn't moving into the north because he's greedy. He's doing it because he's being hunted. There's no room left here." Bumpy shifted his gaze to Johnny. "Is that the truth?" Johnny's face hardened, but he eventually gave a slow nod. "Tony the Fat Man and his crew. They've seized half the docks. We can't breathe." Bumpy knew that pressure all too well. "So you're hitting me because you're backed into a corner." "We aren't desperate," Johnny spat. "We're being tactical. Your territory has the money and the space we need. We're taking it." Bumpy chuckled. "You've got guts, kid. I'll give you that. But you're miscalculating. You think I'm just going to roll over? I've crushed empires 10 times the size of your crew." Johnny leaned over the table. "Then let's see who's left standing." "No," Dr. Lin shouted. "I won't let this happen. Johnny, you don't run me. But I run this clinic, and this clinic is the only reason both of you are still breathing. Bumpy, I patched your gut. Johnny, I pumped the venom out of your blood last year. You both owe me your lives. I'm collecting that debt right now." They both went quiet. She reached into a drawer, pulled out a large map of the city, and smoothed it across the table. "Here is Harlem," she pointed. "And here is the shipyard. Between the 2 of you sits the Italian district, the men who are actually hurting you both." Both men leaned in, staring at the map. Dr. Lin tapped the map. "Tony, the Fat Man, controls the entire flow of product. He buys from your people, Johnny, at a discount, and then he ups the price when he sells to you, Bumpy. He takes a massive piece from both ends. He's getting rich while you 2 kill each other over the leftovers." Johnny frowned. "What exactly are you proposing?" "Remove the middleman," she replied. "Work as a team. Johnny provides the product, Bumpy moves it through the city, and you split the earnings. No more paying the Italians a tax. The room went quiet as the two men processed the idea. Bumpy was the first to speak. Johnny, what's the fat man paying you for your crates? Maybe 40% of what it's actually worth, Johnny admitted. It's a total rip-off. And he charges me 3 times that amount to get it into Harlem, Bumpy added. So we're both getting played. Bumpy leaned in, his eyes locked on Johnny's. If we team up, our bank accounts grow, we expand our reach, and we bleed the Italians dry. Johnny nodded slowly, though his face remained guarded. I don't trust you, Johnson. The feeling is mutual, Bumpy said. Then here is how you do it, Dr. Lin intervened. Start with a trial run. Prove you can be professional. Johnny, you give Bumpy the product at a fair rate, let's say 60% of market value. Bumpy, you handle the street sales in your territory and pay Johnny his share. You keep a larger portion, an 80-20 split, because you're the one dealing with the heat on the ground. Try this for 90 days. If it works, we grow. If it doesn't, you can go back to trying to murder one another. Bumpy let out a short laugh. She's got a good head on her shoulders. Johnny didn't smile, but he gave a sharp nod. 90 days. If you try to skim off the top, I'll have your head. And I'd do the same to you, Bumpy countered. They didn't bother shaking hands. The pact was sealed with a look. On the night of October 25th, the first exchange took place. Johnny's crew rolled into a Harlem warehouse with 40 pounds of high-grade product. Bumpy's soldiers were there, heavily armed and watching every movement, but no one pulled a trigger. The trade was clean, cash for product at the agreed-upon price. Once the dock workers left, Slim turned to Bumpy. You actually believe these guys? I don't trust them, Bumpy said, watching the taillights fade. But I trust the math. This deal makes everyone too much money to mess up. Plus, Dr. Lin is the brain behind this, and she wants her brother alive. What about the mafia? Slim asked. They're going to notice their pockets are getting light. Let them, Bumpy said. By the end of November, the plan was working better than expected. With the Italian middleman gone, the cost of doing business dropped, allowing Bumpy to lower his prices while still doubling his intake. Johnny was making more money than ever because the sheer volume of product moving through Harlem had skyrocketed. Both sides were thriving. However, the peace didn't last long. In December, Tony, the fat man, finally realized his income had flatlined. He put in a call to Bumpy. We need to have a conversation, the mob boss growled. About what? Bumpy asked. About why my money has disappeared. I haven't a clue what you're talking about, Bumpy said coolly. You quit purchasing from my people, the fat man growled. I want to know why. I simply found a source with better rates, Bumpy replied. Who? That's confidential business information. Don't play with me, Bumpy. You're going straight to the dock crews and cutting me out of the middle. Do you have any idea what kind of violation that is? Bumpy shrugged. A violation of what? We didn't have a contract. You were bleeding me dry with those prices, so I moved on to a better offer. The mob boss's voice turned to ice. This is going to cause a major issue for you. Then do what you have to do, Bumpy said. But understand this, if you move against me or my partners, the situation escalates instantly. Consider this an update, the northern streets are off limits, and so are the docks. The fat man let out a dry, mocking laugh. You're protecting the dock crews now? You've lost your grip, Bumpy. Teaming up with them against us is a suicide mission. Maybe, Bumpy said, but my pockets are heavier than they've ever been, and that's the only metric I care about. This conversation isn't finished. I didn't think it was. By January 1956, the 3-month trial had concluded. Bumpy and Johnny Wu met once more at Dr. Lin's office. The tension from their first meeting had been replaced by a mutual, if cautious, respect. The test run is over, Johnny said. And it worked better than I imagined. Bumpy nodded. I've pulled in more profit in 90 days than I did in an entire year dealing with the fat man. The same goes for me, Johnny said. He slid a folder across the table. This is a formal, long-term contract. We merge our logistical operations. We coordinate our security. We protect each other's interests downtown and uptown. Bumpy looked over the paperwork. It was incredibly detailed and professionally drafted. You put this together? My sister assisted, Johnny admitted. She's a sharp strategist. She's a good woman, Bumpy added. Johnny looked at him seriously. She trusts you. She says you're a man of your word. Is she right? Bumpy met his gaze. I don't break my promises. Good. Neither do I. Johnny reached out, and this time, Bumpy firmly shook his hand. They were officially in business. The Mafia didn't wait long to strike. On January 20th, the Fat Man sent a crew of 20 hitters to firebomb one of Bumpy's main distribution hubs. Bumpy's guards were caught off guard and quickly pinned down by heavy gunfire. Just as it looked like the building would be lost, a fleet of black sedans screeched onto the scene. 15 Red Lotus soldiers jumped out, armed with rapid-fire weapons and long blades. The Italians were stunned. They never expected the downtown crew to show up as reinforcements in Harlem. The tide turned instantly. The mob's hitters scrambled to retreat, leaving behind 3 dead and 7 wounded. Bumpy's team didn't lose a single soul. After the smoke cleared, Bumpy found Johnny near the perimeter. I appreciate the backup. Don't mention it, Johnny said, wiping a blade. That's what a partnership looks like. If I let them wipe you out, I lose my most profitable route. That's just bad for the bottom line. Bumpy smiled. You're a lot more calculated than people give you credit for. So are you, Johnny replied. People always underestimate us because we don't look like them. They think different means weak. They're wrong, Bumpy said. It just means unexpected. And in this game, being unexpected is the ultimate weapon. In July 1956, the Italian leadership demanded a sit-down. Bumpy and Johnny Wu walked into the Mafia's private social club side by side, surrounded by a dozen stone-faced mobsters. Fat Tony sat at the head of a long table, his eyes filled with rage. You two have become a massive headache, the mob boss growled. That wasn't our goal, Bumpy said calmly. Don't lie to me. You went behind our backs and cut us out of the money. We simply found a better way to do business, Bumpy countered. By working together. Working against us, you mean? Fat Tony snapped. No, working for ourselves, Bumpy corrected. There's a big difference. Fat Tony leaned over the table, his voice a low threat. Here is how this ends. You dissolve this little alliance today. You go back to buying from my warehouses at my prices, or we start a war that clears the streets. Bumpy and Johnny shared a quick glance, then turned back to the boss. No, Bumpy said. What did you say? We aren't ending the deal, and we aren't going to war. Instead, we're going to offer you a way in. The new order. The room went quiet. Fat Tony stared at them in disbelief. You want to partner with me? After you stabbed me in the back. Precisely because we cut you out, Bumpy explained. You're losing cash. We're showing you a way to get it back. Johnny Wu spoke up for the first time, addressing the Italians directly. You guys control the south side, the docks, and the outer boroughs. We have the north and the shipyard. Instead of fighting over the same dollar, we coordinate. You keep your turf, we keep ours. No one steals customers, and no one lowers the prices. Everyone's profits go up. Fat Tony mocked him. And why on earth would we say yes to that? Because the other option is a bloodbath, Johnny replied. And blood is expensive. Right now, you're burning through your savings trying to kill us. You're losing men and losing sales. Doing that just for pride is a terrible business move. One of the mob's enforcers, a man named Mario, started laughing. You want us to respect your borders? We're the ones who run this city. You guys are just guests in your own neighborhoods. Bumpy leaned forward, his eyes turning cold. Then explain why you haven't been able to take our streets in 20 years. You've tried every trick in the book and failed. It's not because we have more guns. It's because our people are loyal to us. They protect us. You can't buy that kind of loyalty, and you can't beat it out of them. The room fell silent as the truth of the statement sank in. Fat Tony knew Bumpy was right. So, what's the actual plan? We use the old commission model, Bumpy said. But we expand it. It won't just be the 5 families anymore. We add Harlem and the docks to the circle. 7 leaders, 7 votes. We solve our problems with a meeting, not a shootout. Fat Tony looked at his advisors, then back at the 2 men standing defiantly before him. I have to clear this with the bosses at the top, Fat Tony muttered. Lucky, Frank Costello, the whole board. They have to decide. Talk to whoever you need to, Bumpy replied. But don't take your time. Every second you spend thinking about it, we're getting richer and your bank accounts are shrinking. By September 1956, the call finally came. Frank Costello reached out to Bumpy. He said the board was ready to hear them out, both him and Johnny Wu. They were told to be in Atlantic City the following day. On September 15th, they walked into a massive private suite in a high-end hotel. The heavy hitters were all there. Frank Costello, the strategist Meyer Lansky, the enforcer Albert Anastasia, and the bosses Joe Bonanno and Carlo Gambino. Bumpy Johnson and Johnny Wu stood before them, representing the northern streets and the downtown shipyards. Costello opened the floor. Gentlemen, you've suggested something that has never been done. You want us to open up the board to people outside the family circle. Why should we even consider this? Because it's the only move that makes sense for your pockets, Bumpy said. He nodded to Johnny. Johnny took the lead. Right now, you have a grip on most of the city, but you don't have it all. The North and the docks are still standing on their own. You've tried to move in with muscle, and you failed because the people there don't want you. They'll never stop fighting you. Bumpy stepped up. You have 3 choices here. 1. Keep throwing your men into a meat grinder trying to take us over. You'll lose soldiers, you'll lose cash, and you'll still lose the war. 2. Leave us be and let us run our own shows. You won't have to fight us, but you won't make a dime off us either. Or 3. Bring us in. Recognize our borders, coordinate the flow of goods, and everyone walks away with a bigger pile of money and fewer funerals. Albert Anastasia, known for his temper, growled. And if we tell you to get lost? Then the status quo remains, Bumpy said without blinking. We keep shooting your guys, you keep failing to take our blocks, and everyone stays frustrated. But if you agree, the board grows from 5 to 7. We become a more organized, more profitable empire. Carlo Gambino, the quietest and most observant of the bunch, asked, How do we know you won't turn on us once you're inside? The same way you trust each other, Bumpy answered. Shared interest. We all make more money as a team than we do as enemies. In this business, that's the only promise that actually means anything. Meyer Lansky cracked a small smile. He liked the logic. He's right, Lansky said. This entire organization was founded on the idea that greed should never get in the way of a good deal. Joe Bonanno shook his head. There's still an issue. You aren't one of us. You aren't Italian. Bumpy pointed directly at Lansky. Neither is Meyer. He's Jewish, but he's been at the table since day one because he's an asset. My people were running the numbers in the North before this board was even a dream. I've held those streets for 2 decades. I've earned my seat. My people have been established at the docks for generations, Johnny added. We were here long before you arrived. You just didn't pay attention. Frank Costello raised his palm to quiet the room. Enough. The logic is simple. Do we gain financially? Yes. Is it a smart tactical move? Yes. Does it keep the peace? Yes. Then the choice is clear. He looked around the table. I'm in favor. Meyer Lansky gave a short nod. Yes. Joe Bonanno hesitated for a second, then agreed. Carlo Gambino offered a thin smile. Yes. Every eye turned to Albert Anastasia. He was the wild card, a man who lived by the blade and old-school traditions. He stared hard at Bumpy and Johnny. You slaughtered 3 of my associates last month during that warehouse raid. That was the fat man's personal grudge, Bumpy said firmly. Your guys were only there because he asked for a favor. It wasn't your fight, and it wasn't ours. Anastasia leaned back, his expression shifting. You're right. It wasn't. And that's the flaw in how we've been doing things. We're getting pulled into petty squabbles and burning through resources. If the borders were clear, that wouldn't happen. He paused, then nodded. I vote yes. Costello stood up. It's settled. Welcome to the table, Bumpy Johnson and Johnny Wu. You are now part of the most influential circle in the country. Johnny spoke with a serious tone. We appreciate the seat. But let's be crystal clear, we are partners, not employees. Harlem stays independent. The docks stay independent. We work together, but we don't take orders. Costello smiled. Understood. That's the entire reason we're here. The 7 chairs. By October 1956, the newly expanded board held its first formal session. 7 distinct territories were represented. The Genovese Group, the Lucchese Group, the Gambino Group, the Bonanno Group, the Colombo Group, Harlem, Bumpy Johnson, the Docks/Shipyards, Johnny Wu. The first priority was drawing the lines. They used a map to finalize exact borders. Harlem was defined from 110th to 155th Street. The downtown district was mapped out from the waterfront to the main boulevards. No one was allowed to cross these lines or steal clients. Any violence required a vote from the board first. The second priority was the product. The supply chain was now streamlined. Bumpy and Johnny provided the high-grade goods, and the Italians handled the distribution in the outer boroughs. Prices were locked in so no one could undersell the others. Everyone's bank accounts began to swell. The third priority was keeping the peace. Any beef between the groups had to be brought to the table. Majority rule would decide the outcome. No more private wars. By the end of the month, the machine was running smoothly. But in November, the system faced its first real test. One of the Genovese soldiers shot a local shop owner downtown over a small betting debt. Johnny Wu was furious and wanted the killer's head immediately. He called for an emergency meeting. The 7 leaders gathered once more. Johnny Wu laid out the facts. One of your hitters took a life on my turf without a green light. That's a direct breach of our code. The head of the Genovese crew, Vito, tried to brush it off. It was a private beef over a card game. It had nothing to do with the business. It happened in the shipyard district, Johnny snapped back. That makes it my business. Your man trespassed, committed a capital crime, and didn't clear it with me first. That's 3 strikes. The board took a vote on whether the hitter should be disciplined. The tally was 6-1. Even the other Italian families voted against Vito. The majority had spoken. The offender was handed over to Johnny to face the Doc Cruz version of justice, exile. The man was stripped of his rank and physically escorted out of the city with a warning never to return. Vito was seething, but he was trapped by the very rules he had agreed to. The system had held. Bumpy and Johnny sat together afterward, reflecting on the changing times. The soldiers are all coming home from the war, Johnny said. Black men, Chinese men, they bled for this country, only to return to the same old walls of prejudice. Nothing changed for them. That's why this table matters, Bumpy replied. We're proving that skill and loyalty matter more than the color of your skin. Business doesn't care about race, even if the rest of the world does. By January 1957, exactly 1 year had passed since the Red Lotus first tried to muscle into the North. What began as a potential bloodbath had turned into a celebration. At a famous lounge in Harlem, Bumpy's crew and Johnny's guys were actually sitting at the same tables, sharing drinks and stories. A year prior, they would have been shooting at each other on sight. Slim pulled Bumpy aside for a private word. "Boss, I have to admit something." "What's that?" Bumpy asked. "I was wrong. I thought bringing Johnny in was a death wish. I figured he'd backstab us the first chance he got. But he stayed solid." Bumpy nodded. "He kept his promise, and we're all driving better cars because of it." "It's more than the money, boss," Slim said. "I've never seen our people and the downtown crews work together like this. We're standing up to the 5 families as equals. It's a whole new world." Bumpy smiled thinly. "Don't get too ahead of yourself. We're still outlaws." "Maybe," Slim replied. "But we're outlaws with principles. There's a difference." Inside the lounge, Johnny was having a similar talk with his enforcer, the butcher. "I completely misjudged Bumpy," the enforcer confessed. "How so?" Johnny asked. "I thought he was just another street tough. But he's a chess player. He sees the whole board. He knows exactly when to pull the trigger and when to hold out a hand. That's a rare quality." "It is," Johnny agreed. "Our organization is more powerful because of him. And Harlem is more secure because of us. We keep the scales balanced." In February, Dr. Lin invited both men to her home for a private dinner. It was the first time they had met strictly as friends, without guns or ledgers on the table. Over a spread of traditional food, she looked at them both and finally spoke. "I am truly impressed by both of you," Dr. Lin said as she served the meal. "For what?" Johnny asked with a chuckle. "For not ending each other's lives?" "For discovering a smarter path," she replied. "I only planted the seed. You two did the hard work of looking past your biases. You stopped seeing each other as rivals and started seeing each other as men. That is where the real power lies." Bumpy lifted his glass toward her. "To Dr. Lin. She didn't just stitch up our wounds, she prevented this entire city from becoming a graveyard." They all drank to that, but the doctor's expression soon turned grave. "You must stay sharp though. Not everyone is celebrating your success." "Who is the problem?" Bumpy asked. "The old guard," she explained. "In both neighborhoods, there are those who view this as a betrayal of their own kind." Johnny set his glass down. "In my neighborhood, it's the seniors, the ones who lived through the old turf wars. They don't trust anyone from the outside. And uptown," Bumpy added, "there are the hardliners. They believe our people should only do business with our people. They think me sitting at a table with you is a sign of weakness." Dr. Lin nodded. "You have to fix that before those whispers turn into a revolt." "How?" Johnny asked. "By showing them the fruits of the labor," she said. "Prove that this deal helps the regular person on the street, not just the 2 men at the top." In March 1957, Bumpy and Johnny organized a massive town hall at a local community center. Over 200 people packed the room, a mix of families from the north and workers from the docks. A prominent local minister hosted the event to ensure things stayed peaceful. Bumpy took the stage first. "A year ago, there was blood in our gutters. We were fighting a war that only benefited the morgues. But we chose a different route. We chose to work together." He pointed to a large board with figures written on it. "And because of that, we've created 80 new jobs across both districts. We've poured $500,000 back into local youth programs. Most importantly, street violence is down by more than half." The crowd murmured, their skepticism turning into genuine interest. Johnny stood up next, his words being translated for the audience. "My neighborhood was being suffocated by the mob. We were backed into a corner, and we looked at the northern streets as a place to take. But Bumpy showed me that a handshake is more powerful than a blade. He taught me that when different cultures join forces, everyone wins. He displayed his own set of data. 40 local businesses downtown are now safe from extortion. Harassment from outside forces has dropped by 70%. Our streets are safer for our children. A senior member of the community stood up and asked if this was just a temporary fix or something meant to last. Johnny looked the man in the eye. As long as it keeps our people fed and our streets safe, it is permanent. This isn't built on one side taking from the other. It's built on us rising together. The elder gave a slow, respectful nod and took his seat. The room erupted in applause. The alliance was no longer just a secret deal, it was a community victory. In April 1957, the leadership board gathered once more to review the year's performance. Frank Costello addressed the group with a rare look of satisfaction. He noted that the expanded board had surpassed every goal they had set. Profits were rising in every district, and because the internal wars had stopped, the police were no longer breathing down their necks as often. He called it the most prosperous year they had ever seen. Meyer Lansky stepped forward to present the financial data. He revealed that the total income for the entire network had jumped from $35 million to $50 million in just 12 months, a staggering 43% increase. He turned toward Bumpy and Johnny, acknowledging that the bulk of that growth was fueled by the partnership between the northern streets and the docks. They had created a new blueprint for business, and it was undeniably effective. Carlo Gambino stood up, his voice steady. He proposed that they end the trial phase and make this structure permanent. He suggested 7 equal seats with equal voting power and mutual respect forever. The vote was instant and unanimous. Costello raised his glass to the board, noting that for the first time, their organization truly represented the entire city. One night in May, Bumpy and Johnny sat on the steps of a local club as the city quieted down. It was just the two of them. Johnny broke the silence first. "A year ago, I was planning how to put you in the ground." "I know," Bumpy replied. "I was doing the same with you. But here we are," Johnny said. "Partners. Maybe even friends." "Yes," Bumpy agreed. Johnny looked at him curiously. "Can I ask you something? Why did you really say yes to this? You could have fought me and probably won eventually." Bumpy took a moment to reflect before answering truthfully. "I was tired, Johnny. Tired of the constant funerals, the endless fighting, and the wars that never actually changed anything. I've been in this game for 2 decades, and I finally figured something out." "What's that?" "The point isn't just to beat everyone else," Bumpy said. "The point is to build something that doesn't crumble the moment you turn your back. And you can only build something that lasts through cooperation, not by stepping on everyone's neck." Johnny nodded. "My sister told me those exact words." "She's a smart woman," Bumpy said. "She is. Without her, we'd likely both be buried by now." "Most likely," Bumpy agreed. They sat there in the quiet night, looking out at the city where 2 different worlds were now linked. They had proven that being different didn't have to mean being enemies, it just meant they had more to offer one another. In 1971, Johnny Wu decided it was time to step away. He handed the keys to the Red Lotus to his younger relative during a massive celebration. During his farewell speech, he looked out at the faces of both communities and said, 15 years back, I marched into the north with a blade in my hand, ready for a massacre. I failed in that mission, but that failure was the best thing that ever happened to me. It led me to Bumpy Johnson. Together, we constructed something no one thought possible, a bridge between 2 worlds. That bridge brought us wealth, but more importantly, it turned us into brothers." Bumpy stood up and led the standing ovation, his respect for his partner clear to everyone in the room. In 1974, when Bumpy Johnson finally passed away, Johnny Wu was right there in the front row, his grief plain for all to see. When he stood up to speak at the service, his voice was heavy with emotion. "Bumpy taught me that true power isn't about holding people down, it's about lifting them up. He lifted me, he lifted my neighborhood, and he lifted our entire partnership. By doing that, he He changed the DNA of this city forever. The bond between the North and the docks remained unbroken for nearly 3 decades, until the changing times of the late 1980s saw both organizations eventually move on. However, the blueprint they created stayed behind as permanent proof. Working together is always more effective than fighting. It showed that different cultures can achieve greatness if they are brave enough to try. If this account of an unexpected bond and mutual respect resonated with you, make sure to follow for more and show some support if you believe that our differences can be our greatest assets. Share this with someone who needs to hear the story of the dock leader and the king of Harlem who became family. What would you have done if you were standing in Bumpy's shoes? Let us know. Always remember, the most significant triumphs aren't won on the battlefield, they are won through a handshake. Bumpy Johnson and Johnny Wu proved that, and they changed history.